Hi, this is Bob Grant from Relationship Headquarters, and today we're going to talk about don't give in to him. Now, when I first say this, it's understandable if that sounds like I'm suggesting you be a hard nose or you be a power woman and you just set rigid boundaries. And there have been people that I've known, we probably all know, that have gone to therapy, nothing against therapy, gone to therapy too long and got indoctrinated with being the boundary police. And usually they do that because they've been taken advantage of so much. They've been lied to, cheated, and so they overcompensate. And they want to make sure it never happens again. Totally understandable how they got that. But that's not what I mean by don't give in to him. What we want is we're talking about your convictions. So your convictions are a different thing than no one's going to take advantage of me. If it's no one's going to take advantage of me, the only way to do that is to go so far out and to be so extreme that no one gets close to you. The only way to never be taken advantage of is not to let anyone get close enough to even have the opportunity. What that costs you is relationships. That costs you intimacy. It may feel like you're doing it for the sense of safety. I just don't want someone to take advantage of me. There are men that do this too. Men go through divorce or bad breakup or been cheated on, and no woman's ever going to take advantage of me again. Well, that's fine. I get that. But the way to never be taken advantage of is just stay away from women or stay away from men. We're talking about degrees when we say this. And if it's your conviction, see, then that's something I can enforce without having to have a hammer. When I have a conviction, it's a deep knowing inside of me. You do too. You know certain things. I joke about this with wives, but your husband grabbing your butt in public. Some wives may like that, but in general, most don't. She's uncomfortable. It feels rude. It feels disrespectful, and she doesn't like it. And that's not something, whether she enforces it or not, she may not enforce something. She may get taken advantage of. She may be caught off guard when her husband does it or boyfriend does it. But it'll stay with her. A conviction is something that doesn't go away. Just, if you miss an incident, it's still going to be there. You're going to have other chances to practice. Your convictions need to be established. You need to be aware of your convictions before you meet a man, ideally, before you're dating. You don't necessarily have to have a list of 14, but you do need to know what your core convictions are. And if you say you know them, most women I talk to don't really know, at least they know them kind of. They know the extreme things. I don't want a man that hits me. I don't want a man that cheats on me. I'm going to give you those. Those are going to be somewhat of a given. But what is your convictions? What are the things that mean a lot to you? Because if you don't know what they are, you're going to be motivated by your emotions, which we love emotions. More specifically, you're going to be motivated by doing whatever it takes when you're afraid not to feel afraid. So if he butts up against something or he pushes you a certain way, and the fear is if you disagree with him, he'll leave, then you'll absolutely ignore your conviction to keep him there safe. If you know your conviction ahead of time or convictions ahead of time, and if I'm talking with a client, that's one of the things we'll emphasize. I don't care what their convictions are, but I need to know what they are. Because that's one of the ways we evaluate men. If you're going to spend the rest of your life with a man, and you're going to have to ignore your convictions, you're going to resent him in time. Maybe even hate him because you have to keep stuffing part of you and stuffing part of you and stuffing part of you. That is no good for him either. It's awful having an unhappy wife. Awful. If you know ahead of time these convictions are, it's ideal. You can do it while you're dating, but the problem is when you're dating early on is there's a flood of love, there's a flood of passion, and you make assumptions. He's wonderful, he's perfect. And we figure we'll kind of figure this out as we go. Well, the problem is at some point, the ego boundaries snap back. In other words, the illusion dies off and who we are really surfaces. And we start noticing that thing that was so cute and so adorable initially, it's kind of annoying now. It's kind of annoying the way he talks to me at times. It's not sexy like it was the first 3 weeks. And now I've either got to ignore that or I've got to address it. While you're determining to honor your convictions, these are the why parts, that this is why it doesn't work with him. So that's the reason for you. For you, let's talk about your convictions. Let's figure out what they are. Because when a woman tells me she wants to get married or can't get married, dates a lot, I want to know her convictions because I want to know, start mapping out in my mind and hers, who's the man that's a great fit for her. Not because if I tell her she should marry or date whoever, is I want to know what's already mapped out in her heart. That's the man. And I don't think there's just one man on the planet, but that's the one that I'm after. Okay, so that's who we're, and that's based on her wishes, her convictions, really what's the sort of secret language of her heart. And I don't want to leave it just to adrenaline. Guy's really great looking, really exciting, cheats on women a lot, but he's so exciting. Logically, no one would choose that. But if you've been emotionally starved for a long time or lonely, in the moment, just have a little fun. I hear that so often. And then fun turns into 6 months, 12 months. It's a year they've wasted trying to make something that wasn't a good fit into a good one. So that's the why with you. This is how a man perceives it when you give in to him. Number one, men become bored with a woman who allows him to take her for granted. Taking you for granted is where he expects you to adapt to him and adjust to him just because, where he consistently takes more than he gives. And sometimes women will say, well, I don't mind. I'm a giver. Wonderful, you're a giver. But if you consistently give more than you're receiving, and we're not talking 51%, 49%, when you do that, we said that's the recipe for resentment. And resentment, people say it's a bad thing. Well, resentment is there. It's your heart's way of saying this isn't working. Resentment, like depression, is trying to get our attention. No one likes to feel depressed. That's good. No one likes for their knee to hurt either. Let's don't hit it with a hammer. So when we get resentment, we can say, oh, I'm a resentful person. Okay, well, why are you a resentful person? If you're giving more than you're receiving consistently, you will get resentful. And unless you stuff it, but at some point it's going to come out. You not letting yourself be taken for granted keeps you from being resentful. And that's the gift. Every client I talk with that's getting close to engaged, one of the talks we have is, remember, the biggest promise you're going to make to him, you may or may not say this to him, but the biggest promise is, I will not resent you. That's the best gift you can give a future husband. And that doesn't mean pretend stuff doesn't bother you. It means don't let things accumulate. And this requires vulnerability. Because to admit I'm upset, to admit something bothers me, he could laugh at me. He could dismiss me. He could say, get over it. He could talk down to me, whatever. So it's vulnerable to do this. It's within that vulnerability that the intimacy occurs. Number two, men value what they work for. This isn't just something I'm saying because it sounds good. I'm talking to a female audience. Men really do value what we work for. The more we work for something, the more value there is in our eyes. When I think about this, I think for men, the best way to describe it is a concept of an investment. Is that when men put their time and effort and money into something, they're investing. And the more, when men invest, the more they become protective of it. I've done this investing in stocks before. I've done this investing in real estate. I've known guys that have. You get all invested in something. On paper, you realize it's time to get out. The real estate market, the housing market didn't appreciate as much as I thought it was going to. Or the stock, went down, it was supposed to go up. But all the research I'd done, I was convinced this was a good pick. And to sell meant I was wrong. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. And so the emotion is in there. And so hold on to it too long, and a 5% loss turns into a 35% loss. That was a painful lesson. But if we apply this to relationships, the more he invests in you, the more he, from his own standpoint, it becomes personal. Working does not mean he's your slave. Working means he makes offers. He makes effort. He's attentive. And this applies for you too. But men value what he works for. And again, it's not a work for like you're the teacher and permission. It's working for is where he makes efforts. Even into marriage especially. It's what can I do to make her happy? And one of the ways he knows this is your reaction. When your reaction is that you're pleased and happy, that works. It's not enough that you tell him, hey, I like this. That's like giving someone a birthday cake. No icing, no candles, just a slob of cake. It's okay. Your emotional reaction is the key. Again, this goes back to vulnerability. Number three, similar, is men become bored with a woman who lets them take her for granted. It isn't just that you'll build resentment, but from his standpoint becomes boring because the reason he was drawn to you to begin with, there was a sense of beauty and mystery, something about you. And a woman from a man's standpoint is bottomless. There's always new things to discover. It doesn't mean he's going to discover them like women would. Let's talk about this. Let's share about everything. I want to know every idea and every thought, like I'm talking right now, kind of fast. He won't do it that way. As much as there'll be a perspective you give him. There'll be when you're mad at him. I did an interview with Auntie Boyd the other day, and she was talking about she had an incident, and she was talked about her background, talked about her past, and her husband Brody had done something, didn't clean up the dishes or something, and she had told him before, and she was so mad, and she was just furious. This is early, like their first year marriage, so still figuring stuff out, and so mad, and she was going out the door, and in her mind it was just screaming to her, "Oh my gosh, get a separation! Just what an idiot! I can't believe I married this guy. Just I'm over here." And she got the door. But she made a conscious choice to turn around, and she said all I did was just put one foot in front of the next. Her brain was screaming, "Oh my gosh, he's an idiot, get out of here." She made that choice. She walked toward him, and I think he had never seen her do this before, so he didn't know what was coming. And she just gave him a hug, and then went back in the house. But see, that conflict that was there, we don't want to avoid that because, see, that was for her a wound that was already there. And her husband brought that up. He didn't mean to. If she'd have just gone along with what he said and buried that, he would assume she was fine with that. And that whatever he wants is a pet. Men don't want to be married to a pet. Men actually want your opinion. They want your feedback. They want your reaction. They crave your emotion with it. Now, I'm not saying they'll like it all the time, but a man liking you all the time is not the goal. A man being happy with you all the time, that's not what you want. Intimacy is not about agreeing all the time. Intimacy is not about we must be happy with each other. Intimacy is about letting someone get close enough where they could hurt us. And then seeing that they didn't. See, that's what she did. She got close enough that, her husband, he didn't mean to hurt her, but being neglectful or something, that was a big deal to her. And that to her felt like he was doing it on purpose. It doesn't matter that he wasn't. That was the nerve he hit. And see, unless she had gotten close enough or allowed him to get close enough, that nerve wouldn't have gotten hit. And it wouldn't have been exposed, and she would not have had the opportunity to heal that wound by choosing to walk back toward him. Now, granted, she'd been doing some work on herself, and I think she was in therapy at the time. So it wasn't just like this magical thing that happened. But even with all the insight she had, and she's a counselor coach, even with all that, it still involved that choice because we would rather have conflict than being bored all the time. We're not saying there aren't times for being bored. But let him take you for granted means he doesn't see you as a peer. He sees you more like a pet. And our last thing, he wants a confidant. Taking you for granted means, or if you let him do that, means that there are times when he knows he might be doing it wrong or going in the right direction or wrong direction. And he needs your feedback. He needs, one of the best ways I think to describe marriage is it's like one brain that two people are sharing. Not identical. Not the same thoughts. I mean, you need a little bit of both. He actually wants your perspective. Because when you stand up to him or you point out to him or you say to him, that doesn't seem right, or that makes me nervous, or I know you told me about this business deal, but I met the guy you go in business with and something about him doesn't seem right. Again, he may not like that. But that's what a confidant does. She takes the risk and is willing to voice her opinion. Again, it doesn't mean it's a demand. It doesn't mean she's telling him what to do, but she shares that. And then as he begins to learn, as you do that, he begins to learn to trust it. Sometimes you're right, maybe not always. But what he appreciates is you're modeling for him authenticity. You're modeling for him intimacy, closeness. Taking for granted or allowing that is where I'm trying to avoid fears, is where I'm trying to keep someone, not because of who I am, but I'm trying to keep someone because I'm afraid that they're going to see who I really am and leave. So I don't want them to see that. That's one of the reasons why women have sex so quick. I'm not saying it's the only reason. It's one reason. Because with that, I know he'll stay. It's one reason why I talk with wives. Things aren't great in the marriage, but all she has to do is agree to have sex with him, and it gets better for a few days, maybe a few weeks. And the problem's avoided. So this is our reasons for not letting him take you for granted. I mean, there's a generalization, don't do it. This is the why. You knowing what your convictions are ahead of time will save you lots of trouble. Which ones you're willing to enforce. Well, again, which ones are important to you? And as you know those, that helps a man know, okay, this works with her, this doesn't work with her. Men do really well once they know where the line is, the line you're willing to enforce. Again, it's not enough to tell a man. Remember, words don't mean much for men. Men watch what you do, not what you say. So your conviction gives him the boundaries. Okay, this works, this doesn't work. Because when a man doesn't cross over your convictions, you're going to be more laid back. You're going to be more at ease because you don't have to worry about having to constantly enforce them. And if you do have to constantly enforce them, then let's have a talk about, is this the guy for you? I mean, if he's your husband, you got 4 kids, then let's have a talk about how to make this work. All right, so I'm glad you joined us. If you like this, be sure and leave a comment and let us know below. Be sure and check us out on relationshipheadquarters.com. We have lots of goodies there for you. And remember, our main mission, mine especially, is helping women have the love they've always wanted. See you next time.